What's up, guys? Welcome to the DoItMovement podcast. This is your host, Martine Jackson, and I've built my 6-figure, soon-to-be 7-figure, massive real estate business through commercial investing, rental investing, and wholesaling in Virginia. After college, I worked a series of jobs that I absolutely hated and decided to take life into my own hands. What my journey has shown me is one very important thing. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Each week, I bring you a powerful guest or tip to unravel the real estate game, and my challenge to you is that you take some of that knowledge and do something with it. The Do It Movement is here to help you create the life you desire through real estate. Now let's get to it. Hello today, Do It Movement listeners. This is your host, Martine Jackson. Today, we have an attorney in the house. I'm joined with CC Moreno. How are you doing today, CC?
I'm good, Martine. How are you?
I'm well. I'm really glad to have you on. I know your group, the Moreno Group, you guys close on real estate transactions. And I feel like there's a lot about closing that we don't know.
Oh, absolutely. I get investors calling my office 5 or 6 times a week asking, things they don't know. And they don't know that they don't know them until they call and ask.
Right.
So there's a lot of inner workings go on that maybe the gurus and the do-roos aren't telling you about on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Or there's a lot of ins and outs and a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Right. And when you get to the point where, hopefully you do this before, as I know you'll mention later, but when you get to the point where you start doing deals and you're doing a good amount of them, you'll realize all the places you messed up.
My mom always said a bought lesson was better than a borrowed one, and I've seen some investors buy some big ones, only to learn down the road that how they could have protected themselves earlier and in the long run.
Right. Okay, well, for the folks that may not know who you are, let's just do a little brief intro of yourself and how'd you get to where you are?
Well, my name is CC Moreno. I'm a closing attorney in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I cover closings on the south half of the state. So if you're about from Jackson down, I can help you out with all your closings, all your real estate investing, all your business setup, and point you in the right directions for buyers, for wholesalers, for people that can help you. I have a bachelor's from Southern Miss in political science and history, and I have my law degree from the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. I was taking a job in corporate law and was really excited. I was going to be with a big firm in Atlanta, was going to be in one of those big towers, was going to be taking over the world. And I went in and I hated it. I hated every single second about it. And my husband looked at me at that point and was like, you don't have to do this forever. You can go out on your own, and when you go to law school, they tell you that's a fool's errand to go out on your own and set up your own law firm. And people go broke doing that if you hang your own shingle. And I can see where a lot of it's right. I can see where a lot of people fail when they aren't diligent with their business. But I went in from the mindset of I'm going to treat this like a job because it is a job and it's my livelihood and it's how I'm going to spend the rest of my life. So set it up right in the beginning so that it works for you down the road, and you're it becomes the same reason people buy rental houses and stuff. It becomes cash flow and it becomes something you don't have to work in every day. You lose your job. So I went out on my own last year from February to December. We closed 102 transactions, which is
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, we had a great first year. I've actually already closed 22 in the month of January. So it's only bigger and better and faster. And I'm constantly learning how to help my clients more, whether it be through trust, whether it be through land trust, whether it's entity protection and in the long term. So that's a lot about me and a lot of what I do. I love to help investors. I love I would choose an investor with a cash transaction over a lender transaction anytime. That's not to say all lenders are bad, but there's some bad apples out there and they're hard to deal with. And they'll tell you I'm hard to deal with because I demand a lot. I demand a lot of people that I work with because I want you to be as invested in the business as I am. Like, I want you to succeed. So if you'll give me 110%, I'm going to give you 110%.
Right. Yeah, because I was doing a little research on you, and I saw that you were really gung ho about doing this, being a corporate attorney. I have a fraternity brother that he's a corporate attorney. He works so much, like he makes a whole lot of money.
80 hours a week, and you make your money. But I mean, at what cost? Do you ever get to see your family? Do you get to enjoy kids, nieces, nephews, go on vacation? The thing about being my own boss is if I want to leave my office at 2:00 on a Tuesday because I feel like it, I get to. There's nobody to answer to. Like, as long as I get my work done, like, there's no problems. Now, I will tell you, I'm also the person that's answering emails at 10:00 at night when I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep. Like,
right. It's a little addicting when it's yours. It's like, oh, this is my business, not work. Like, I must make it grow. So I get it. I'm working on a work-life balance myself.
It is a tightrope that I walk all the time.
Right. So I know you talk a lot about like entity structure, a lot about how you shouldn't go the cheap route. You should get somebody that knows what they're doing to set up your docs. And I couldn't agree with you more. I bought my lessons.
Well, we talked about this a little bit before. You get what you pay for. I have a couple of clients right now that set up their LLCs through LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer or Legal File Inc. or Fast File or whatever. They picked some guy off the internet that says they can do it for $150 and it's everything you need. And in essence, they're right. They set you up with an LLC, they give you registered agent service, and they give you an operating agreement. But when you're in real estate investing, it is your operating agreement that is the backbone of your business. It is what protects you in the long term. It is what sets up what your LLC can do, who has the power to buy, sell, wholesale, convey, who can sign those deeds, who can do business with these real estate properties. I know I got an operating agreement in my inbox yesterday. I was like, hey, I want to close on this house. Here's our operating agreement. I know you need to see it. There's not a single thing in that operating agreement that gives any member or manager power to sell real estate property. So if you don't have any documents that allow you to sell it, you're a sitting duck. And I have to go in and I have to fix it. And it takes me twice as long to fix what somebody else has already done as it would be if you'd just come to me in the first place and I would have tailored your operating agreement to your business. Because those 3-page operating agreements are not tailored to your business. They are not dedicated to what you're doing. Those people on the other end of LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer or whatever don't even know what wholesaling is. They don't care about real estate investing. My clients that come in get depending on if there's one or more members, get a 12 to 15 page operating agreement that carves out the tax implications, that carves out what they can take over their CPA and their bank and set everything up the right way. It gives them registered agent service. That way nobody's knocking on Martine's door at 6:00 on a Tuesday afternoon and serving you with a lawsuit. They're going to serve me with it first. I'm going to be your first line of defense. Rocket Lawyer's not going to do that. LegalZoom's not going to be. They're going to get served and they're going to go, you need to hire a lawyer. Good luck. To hire me in the beginning, and I'm your first line resource. Now, I know people are out there telling you you don't need an operating agreement. You just spend your $75, $150, whatever, with the Secretary of State and set up your LLC yourself. And they're right. You can set that LLC up, and for all intents and purposes, it works. But the second somebody sues you, and it's not if somebody sues you, it's when somebody sues you, that LLC is going to fall apart. It is going to crumble into a million pieces without an operating agreement. You're going to sit there, and that house you bought and that nice car you have and anything you'll own in the future, Those people that are suing you for $1 million because they tripped and fell, you had that property in your LLC name, they're going to destroy that LLC. They're going to pierce the corporate veil, and they are going to make you personally responsible. That way they're attaching to your house, they're attaching to your properties, they're attaching to anything that you or that LLC own, they're attaching to your vehicles, they're attaching debt to you that will follow you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why it's integrally important for you to set up your LLC the right way. And so you set it up so you can convey property. So it's not as easy to pierce that corporate veil. So you can sit there and you can do these wholesale deals. You can do these investments. You can buy and hold, sub-2, fix and flip. You can do all of this, and you can do it legally within the confines of the law. Because there's a lot of people out there that aren't doing it the right way. And they don't know they're not doing it the right way because they think, hey, I'm set up, I'm right. They're closing attorneys probably never even, or title companies probably never even looked at their operating agreement. They just sent it over in a PDF file and was like, here, this works, and they stuck it in a file folder somewhere. But it's all a part of a due diligence thing. If your closing attorney isn't asking for your LLC operating agreement, then you need to find a new closing attorney because they're not they need to know those details.
Right. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this podcast. You're preaching over here because I remember I've been doing this about 5.5 years now. But when I first started, I went to the Virginia SCC and I just started an LLC, and I was like, operating agreement, what's that? And I just, went with it. And then like I had a PO box as the registered agent address, and they're like, we can't serve a PO box. That's not the rules. You can't do that. And I'm like, what? I wasn't aware. I learned on the back end. So I just hope that the people that are listening, that they're really taking the things that you're saying and are going to actually implement these things into their business, because you can save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of trouble by setting yourself up correctly from the beginning before anything even happens.
I mean, it's what, $750 for me to set up your LLC, do your operating agreement, because that's the expensive part, is writing the 12 to 15 pages. But in the long term, you get sued for $1 million, and my operating agreement protects you, right? And I save you that $1 million versus you let LegalZoom set it up and they said good luck, and now you need a lawyer. Then I have saved you $1 million, and LegalZoom has cost you $1 million plus that $150 that you paid them.
Right. So I know we're talking about operating docs and things like that, but let's just talk about entity structure for a little bit. If you see me looking down, guys, because I prepared some questions, I wanted to make sure I got some good answers for you guys. So we'll just start with something that I feel like it needs to be addressed. I learned this not when I started, I learned it later on. So when for entity structure purposes, if you're wholesaling, you're buying, holding, you're fixing, flipping, should you do all of this in the same entity?
No. No. I'm going to give you the advice I get. And let me go ahead and preface this by saying I'm not giving legal advice.
Oh, yeah, I meant to add that.
Go consult your own attorney. Go consult your own tax professionals. Like, I'm not giving legal advice here.
Right. This is for educational purposes only.
You need different LLCs. You definitely do. You can keep your fix and flips and your wholesales in one LLC, but you want your buy and holds in another. And you don't want to put more than 5 buy and holds in one LLC. So you get that 5th or 6th property, you need to start opening up an LLC, because it's the old premise of you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want 10 houses in one LLC and somebody trip and fall, break their neck, and sue you for $1 billion. You don't want them attaching to every single property that you own. You want to spread your properties out. It's an asset protection thing. You want to spread things out. And of course, CPAs are going to tell you to tax your LLCs differently. Your buy and hold LLCs are going to be taxed differently than your fix and flip and your wholesale LLC. I've even got clients that have 3 different LLCs. They've got one for buy and hold, they've got one for fix and flip, and they've got one for wholesale. Because they know they don't want to cross over anything. They don't want any crossover. They want to protect themselves. They don't want any piercing the corporate veil or anything like that to happen. So it is integrally important for you to get with a good attorney and get with a good CPA so that you are set up the right way, so that you can protect your assets as much as possible.
So you mentioned some of the benefits, like as far as asset protection for having different LLCs or whatever corporate structure you pick. But what are some other benefits to having different LLCs for different types of businesses?
Different types of businesses can write off different types of things. Your buy and holds can write off some of your rehab. You can write off all of your rehab. You can write off a million other expenses that you might not be able to write off in your wholesale. You can't write off your driving for or your yellow letter HQ mail house things for your buy and hold LLC. You can't write off your bandit signs in your buy and hold LLC. You want to write those off over here. So it's is it because it's different types of income? It's like this is income I worked for, and this is passive. Yes, absolutely. And you want to write them off. Of course, nobody wants to pay taxes. We want to write we want to write off as much as humanly possible.
Right.
So it's important for you to know which of your LLCs you can write off the right things for.
Right. So how do you know which entity to choose for your business? Like, how would you know to get an LLC?
It depends on what you're doing. I mean, if people are, and it depends on the state that you're operating in. Some states don't allow limited liability companies. Some states do. Some have different types of LLCs. It's all going to depend on what your state and your Secretary of State allows. I mean, I know Mississippi and LLCs, the way to go. It is limited liability, and if it's set up the right way, it is ironclad. But I know California isn't really fond of LLCs. So I know there's a different way to set up incorporated and all those things. I mean, it's going to depend on what state you're operating in.
And I know this next one is probably loaded, so give us a sprinkle. But what are some key things that you feel that people should definitely have in their operating agreements?
You absolutely don't want yourself as a registered agent. If you are doing real estate, you want a clause in there saying that all of the LLC property belongs to the LLC, and the interest in which the members and managers hold is not personal property. You want to make sure that the LLC owns all of that stuff, and it's the LLC's responsibility, and you are wiping your hands of it. You also want to make sure that there's a part in there that says you can sell things, that you can buy things, you can wholesale things, that you're allowed to sign the deed and convey title to any of the LLC's properties. And that's one thing that really gets a lot of people is their LLC operating agreement doesn't allow them to sell anything. And if you come in my office to sell a piece of property, I can't let you sign a deed. Yeah, their LLC owns it, but we don't know who can sell it.
So does the operating agreement just say that they're able to buy it, or? It
doesn't say either. Nobody's checked it before it got to me. Nobody can check it. I mean, we're in a day and age where instant gratification is key, and everybody started downloading their operating agreements off the internet, and nobody's checking them. And I know Chance Reynolds and I have had conversations ad nauseum about how bad some of these LLCs are the operating agreements are that come all across my desk. I mean, I had one yesterday, literally 3 pages, double spaced. How much information do you think somebody can get in 3 pages, double spaced?
You're really convicting us over here.
I mean, there's
to get
not
it
a
together.
lot of information.
Right. So I guess what are some things that you expect for someone that is going to close with you? Meaning, like, what are some things that if someone was listening to this podcast and they said, oh, I'm going to the Moreno group to close my transaction, they can make it smooth.
Contract. I need a signed contract.
Right.
I also need an earnest money deposit because there are there are 3 things that make a contract: offer, acceptance, and consideration. Consideration is a bargain for exchange of tangible value, which makes a contract valid. Easiest way to prove consideration is $100. Because if I have a contract to sell a property to somebody and you have a contract to sell a property to somebody and my contract's got earnest money and your contract doesn't, guess who's going to hold up in court? Mine.
The one with the valid contract.
And I put $100. My contract that I give to my clients has $100 earnest money deposit. It's just enough to be taken seriously. And it's not too much that if something were to fall apart in this deal, that you get your feelings hurt over $100. It's also one of those things that it's going to get deposited with me anyway. You never, ever, ever give earnest money to your sellers. You always take it to the title company or take it to the closing attorney with your contract. And I know you got people out here that are going to say, oh, I've done 500 deals and never required earnest money. Okay, you probably have. That's a stupid way to do business, kind of like doing business without an operating agreement for your LLC. It's a stupid way to do it, but you can do it. The only thing it becomes a contract by force. That's the only way it becomes a valid contract at that point. Because if something falls apart between the day you get that contract signed and the day it closes, that's not a contract. The only time it becomes a contract is when you close it, it becomes a contract by force.
You're preaching to us today.
I don't mean to preach. It's just like,
oh no, we need it.
I see people come in my office all the time and they just don't get it because so-and-so on YouTube said, I didn't need any money to do this. I didn't need, and in theory, you don't need any money to drive for dollars. You need a little bit of gas money.
Right.
But you want to protect yourself early on. That way, you're saving yourself a lot of headache, a lot of heartache, a lot of indigestion down the road.
Right.
To keep yourself out of these. I mean, Mark Cuban doesn't go out and start up a new company without setting it up the right way. You want to get to the point where Mark Cuban's at, so you need to do the things that Mark Cuban does.
Right. So how do you feel about, go ahead.
Kent Clothier. Kent doesn't set up his stupid ways. Sean Terry, make sure his business is set up the right way. Max Maxwell, make sure it's set up the right way. Like Max and I have had conversations ad nauseum about it too. Like there are a lot of people that, get on YouTube and watch his videos and get excited about it. There are people that watch my husband Brent and Adam Johnson's. They watch the Real Estate Roundup and they get excited about wholesale. They get excited about all of this. But there is a little bit of cost that comes with it. You want to make sure you're positioning yourself to be like Sean Terry, to be like Grant Cardone, to be like Max Maxwell. You got to do the things they done to position yourself to get there.
Right. How do you feel about, like, let's say someone's wholesaling a contract, they get it under contract, and then they assign it to someone, and they use the buyer's earnest money deposit as their consideration?
Doesn't work for me. That's the B2C part. That's the consideration for that part. But that's not the A2B consideration. If it's an ABC transaction and you're wholesaling it, you've got to have your own consideration. Because if by that logic we're using the consideration from B to C, then C can go directly to A and C have a contract and cut you out in the middle.
Okay, so on to some title search questions.
Okay.
What is one of the craziest like titles that you've seen from a title search?
156 acres. There were 156 heirs to a piece of property.
Oh, you said 156 heirs. I thought you said acres.
No, 156 heirs.
How did you find all of those people?
This one man, he was a grandpa. He was also a daddy. He had children from 67 years old to 16 months old.
Papa was a Rolling Stone?
Papa was a Rolling Papa was a pimp, is what Papa was. He had 3 different wives with 3 different families. They were, I mean, he had, I think he had 5 kids with the first wife and 7 kids with the second wife, and then 4 kids with the new baby. The new baby made 5. And some of these kids some of these older kids have already passed away, and they have their own heirs. So someone over here might have 5 children and he's passed away. So now those 5 heirs become involved, and now there are grandchildren and wives, and like you've got all of these interested parties. And I just closed that one. So 156 heirs is probably going to be my crazy one. I see the standard stuff all the time, defects in the chain of title. I closed one 2 weeks ago that a brother had wrote a will in prison and conveyed it back to his sister, but they never actually filed the deed to convey it from dead brother back to sister. So the 2 daughters of the dead brother done a quitclaim deed thinking that would solve the issue. And in theory it does, but we have no chain, we have no link from how dad conveyed it to daughters so daughters could convey it to sister. So we had to go back and create that link with an heirship affidavit from both of those, from people that knew the decedent and knew he only had those 2 daughters. So we had to correct that link in the chain of title. And I see stuff like that all the time. I see taxes all the time, IRS liens all the time. Here's a pro tip to people. IRS liens can be negotiated down. They will release them off of a property. And it's not even like they will release the property. The lien still belongs to the person, but the IRS will work with you. They've decided they would rather get a little bit of money than no money at all. So every time you're killing a lead for an IRS lien, go out and pick it back up and talk to the IRS and see if you can get that property removed.
So I'm glad you gave that pro tip. I hope people have wrote that down just in case they encounter one like that. But for as far as IRS liens, if you're interested in purchasing that property, you should be talking to the IRS, or should the person that the liens actually
the IRS is not as simple as a bank with just an authorization information. You're going to need to get, I think it's a Form 2022 that allows you to talk to the IRS on behalf of these people. Or get the people to call the IRS themselves and negotiate it themselves. You're there to help them. You'll get a lot more out of this business helping people than trying to screw them or trying to short them. I mean, we're truly in the business of helping people.
Right.
So as long as you go in with that mindset, like it's going to pay dividends, and these people are going to be willing to sit down and call the IRS and spend 45 minutes on the phone, or visit your local IRS office. I mean, there are offices all over the country that people get paid to sit in those offices and answer questions just like the ones you're going to ask.
Right.
So, be willing to work with people. Be willing to put in the extra effort that maybe the last wholesaler that the contract fell apart wasn't able to, didn't want to, didn't have the time to. Because that extra effort is where your money's at.
Because you're adding value, getting paid for value
all the time.
So I guess this is a follow-up question to the pro tip as well. Do you have a recommendation of like what percentage the IRS will go down on these liens?
It depends. It depends on which IRS officer you get that day. It depends on how much the liens are for. Like I've seen one take $400 for a $500,000 lien, and I've seen I've seen $1,200 for $150,000 lien. So, I mean,
it just depends.
It's just going to depend. It's going to be a case-by-case basis. It's going to be what the liens are for, whether it's past taxes or you failed to file. I mean, there are a lot of penalties and stuff that they can waive, but then there are a lot that they can't. So it's going to depend on what those penalties are for.
So I have another question that may be loaded too, but you got me thinking about it. Let's say we have a lot of liens on there, such as like child support, taxes, but not IRS taxes, like city taxes or something like that, right? And it's like a ton. Is there anything that you can do to, I guess, clear the title? I mean, well,
with city and county and school taxes, they're going to get their money.
Yeah, I noticed.
There's not anything that you can really do about those. Now, with child support, everything's negotiable, as sad as that sounds. That dad or mom might have been shorting those kids long term, but sometimes the court will take the proceeds in trust and hold it for the children. So see what the court's willing to take. Be like, look, I know he owes $47,000 or she owes $47,000, but I'm trying to give you 26 right here to hold it in trust for these kids. Because right now you have none, but I'm trying to give you 26. So be willing to go out on a limb and just do good work.
Right. So make an effort to try to make something happen.
Yeah. If you make an effort, 9 times out of 10, you can get liens cleared off. I mean, as long as you're making an effort and you're doing it in a diligent manner and you're trying to be helpful, you're putting good out there, then it's going to come back to you tenfold.
Right. Do you think that, because some titles are really, really bad with a lot of liens and judgments and all of these things on there. Do you think that it's possible to clear every title that you everyone that you're get under contract?
It's possible to clear every title, but it's not always worth it.
Gotcha.
You can spend thousands of dollars to clear off a title, and that's going to cut into your margins, and it's not going to be worth it. So you come back and you get a lien list that's as long as your left arm, unless you are diligent in negotiating those down yourself, you got to be very careful with that.
Right. Okay.
I've never seen titles that I couldn't clear, but I have seen title that I've cleared that buyers wished I hadn't when they got my bid.
Because I get what you're saying. So I got some questions from some people on one of the online groups. I'm trying to figure out where you go. Here you are. It went off. It went off of the video. But anyway, I don't know. Are you familiar with the group Wholesale and VA Supercharge?
I think I'm in it. I think I've heard of it. I've been so busy lately. I used to interact in groups all the time. I was the first one to type up and comment. But I've been so busy lately. I just haven't had time. I'm busy with the people that come and sit in my office and nothing beyond that.
I remember in Wholesale and Elite, you really caught my eye because you always was responding to everybody on Wholesale and Elite. And I think some people would try to DM you and you'd be like, no, put it in the group. Everyone needs to learn this.
Needs to learn.
Right. So I have one question I think that would, it kind of ties into what we have been talking about. So I want to share it. The other question is about taxes, and you're not a CPA, so I'm not asking that question.
Okay.
So the question that the person wrote was, what went wrong with this deal? So this is a deal that she was doing, and she wanted to know, what she could have done better. So she put, I signed a contract to a builder for which he signed. He wanted to extend the closing date right off the bat, so the closer asked me to contact the seller. I told her that the builder owns the contract, but she insisted since the seller was not aware. So I submitted an extension, but the seller declined. The builder gave the go-ahead on the title search, but later, on the last day of the inspection, wanted out. I ended up drafting the release and losing the deposit because of the builder refused to pay the title search. I think I was too involved. The builder believed that I owned the contract until closing. I don't know if that's clear or not.
I can tell you exactly what happened there. Never represent yourself as selling a property. You were selling a position in a contract. Mm-hmm. And do not get that twisted. Don't do it. You will be screwed every time. Because and when people start requesting extensions right off the bat, that's not your buyer. You make it very clear to them, these are the terms of your contract. This is when you need to close. If you can't close by this time, you're not my buyer, and I'll pass this off to somebody else. Also, next time, that non-refundable earnest money deposit, make sure it's a clause in your assignment contract that they initial and sign, and they understand that that is a non-refundable deposit. Mm-hmm. Because the time, effort, and work you've put into it, like, your work does not go to waste. Know your worth, know your value.
Right. I think in the contract that we use, and you can tell me if it's good or bad, but in the contract that
law, so it might very well be.
But we have it that it's a non-refundable deposit unless they can't clear the title. If they can't clear the title and the person can't buy it.
That's standard. That's pretty standard, unless like there's a real defect in the chain of title. If it's by the buyer's own making that they can't close, then that's when changes and issues come up. But that non-refundable earnest money deposit has saved several clients several times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I will say there was a deal, that reminds me, there was a deal I had that I was wholesaling it, and then the buyer paid his non-refundable deposit, which was $5,000, and he backed out of the deal, so he lost his money.
He lost $5,000.
Right, so he just lost his money because he backed out the deal. There was no reason for him not to close, but his own doing. And it helped me because it just put me in a better position for working with the seller. But I think I'm done putting you on the hot seat.
No, it's been great. I hope I've been helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, you did some. I mean, the stuff that you're telling us, and the things that we need to work on are key. And to be honest, some of this stuff I need to tighten up as well. So I'm really glad to have you on. I love when people are making me feel a little uncomfortable because I need to do something better. They're like, come on, get it together. And I'm like, all right. You need people like that. You can't have people that say, oh, everything you do is right. Like,
it's all sunshine and sparkles and flowers. Like, sometimes you just got to have a little dose of realism.
Right. But do you recommend like any books or any like things that you may listen to that help with
So mine are going to be a little bit mindset than real estate investing. The Go-Giver is always a good one. The Go-Giver is a good one. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is fantastic. Pardon my language, but like that's a damn good book.
Right.
It's a take no prisoners approach. It's like, you are doing the best for you. And sometimes people in this business need to do that. You need to do what's best for you and not worry about making nice with everybody else. It's nice to have friends and it's nice to be colleagues, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is on you. And like, you have to remember that.
Right. The book that you just recommended, though, I saw that book I don't remember, whenever it came out. And like someone's like, oh, you should get this book. And I was like, well, I already know how to do this. Like, I'm pretty good at this, but I probably will give it a read because it'll probably just reaffirm some things. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it this way.
It's a really good book. I've thumbed through it several times and enjoyed it. I've actually got one in my purse right now. Ed Milet, Max Out Your Life. That's what I'm reading right now that I'm going to recommend. It's a really good. It's a good read. It's thin. It's quick. It's easy. I think it's like 100 pages, double spaced. So it's something you can thumb through real quick, and it's a mindset thing. It's getting you in the right mindset to do business. So those are my 3 book recommendations: The Go-Giver, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and Max Out Your Life by Ed Milet.
Okay. And I want to add a book recommendation since we're talking about mindset, and I'm reading a book on mindset right now. It's called E Squared. Have you read that before?
Oh, no, I haven't.
So I forgot what the lady's name is. Oh, I actually have it right here. This is it, by Pam Grout. And basically it's kind of like The Secret a little bit, just saying like you can manifest things by your thoughts that turn into reality. And she knows that people that are reading the book, they are skeptical. So she's like, well, I'm going to prove it to you. Like, she has experiments in the book. And she's like, I'm going to prove to you by doing this, you're going to manifest this stuff in your life. So then you can take these small steps and make them bigger. So I'm pretty excited about this book. I'm pretty excited.
E Squared. E Squared.
Yeah, my friend recommended this book to me a very long time ago, and I just put it on my bookshelf. I never thought about it. And then like last night, I was just like, oh, let me see what I got over here. And I was like, oh, I never read this one. Let me read this. And so far, I mean, it's been pretty good.
Perfect. I always need something to add to the library.
So is there any advice or any last words you like to give people? I mean, you've dealt with a lot of real estate investors. You know how we work.
My best advice is probably going to come in the form of telling you to go somewhere. Go ahead to the Real Estate Roundup, and I think it's in Wholesaling Houses Elite too. Both of them are groups on Facebook. There's an investor attorney friendly checklist. Make sure your closing attorneys are following that, and when you need to find a closing attorney, that's the checklist you use. And there's also another PDF. It's Things Wholesalers Miss. It's everything that every chief complaint I have of people that have come into my office, things they miss, things they don't know, things they don't understand. It's better preparing you to go out into this business. So those are the two recommendations I have. Head on over to Real Estate Roundup and find out those documents, because they're there and they are gold.
And the Things that Wholesalers Miss, where is that?
It's in Real Estate Roundup. It's a PDF file.
Cool. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a link so we can add in the show notes so people can just click it. It'll be easy. No excuses not to get it, guys.
Yeah, and it's gonna help your business immensely.
But thank you for being on the podcast, CC. I really appreciate it. You gave us some really good, valuable insight. I really enjoy when we have attorneys on, because you guys are, you follow the laws and you try to make sure that we follow the laws too. And then we find out something we're not doing right, and you're like, get it together. Yep. So I always appreciate that. So thank you for being on.
Well, thanks, Martine. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, until next time, Do It Movement listeners. See ya! Thanks, guys, for checking out the Do It Movement podcast this week. I hope we inspired you to make some power moves now. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us for more info on our guests and new episodes at Do It Movement Pod on Instagram and at doitmovementpod.com. Make sure as you apply some of this knowledge, you tag us along the way by adding #DoItMovement so that we can recognize the change makers. See you next week.